All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to our very first episode of UnCEALed, the show where we talk about how the Casual Esports Amateur League is shaping up and how the players and teams are looking. Right now, we are halfway through the season. So, there's a lot to catch up on. We got to talk about the first 3 weeks. We got to talk about early contenders for All Star voting, at least how we see them panning out. Some highs and lows, highlights about the season, and just generally how it's all feeling heading into the final 2 weeks and then the playoffs. So, hi, I'm Scattercat. You know me from the Tribunal, and I've helped out like on a couple of streams so far. With me tonight, we got Shadow 2097 talking about the Noxus division.
Evening, everybody.
And then we also have ZZ Dog with us talking about the Shuriman division.
Hello, hello.
And finally, we have Styx, who is here from the Ionian division. Styx, I've never actually clarified how to actually say your name.
I mean, it's Sticks and Crons. Everybody just
Okay.
calls me Sticks.
All right. I didn't know if the end was supposed to be just there to separate Styx and Grons or if you actually pronounced it. I don't know. I just felt it might be weird.
Yeah, that's understandable.
All right. Well, so tonight, our first division we're actually going to be talking about is actually going to be the Ionian division. We're not going to go in order, top to bottom or bottom to top. We're just going to mix them around so that like you don't know when your division's going to show up on the talk. So just hang out, pay attention for when we're going to talk about you. So yeah, take it away then. How is the Ionian division shaping up?
Well, the Ionian division, I think, in general, is pretty healthy. I mean, we've got the highest ELO teams in general. Like, we've got the highest ranks out of any of the divisions. So the play really comes down to a lot more of macro rather than, like, pure micro. I think that it's pretty clear that Team Tempest and Washed Up One Tricks are the 1 and 2 seed. I like to say that my alma mater Nerdy Pandas are in the 3rd spot here, but all the teams, all again super competitive for the most part. I've had a lot of fun playing in the division, to be honest.
Yeah. So so let's talk about some anything that you've noticed between the teams. Like, have there been some teams that have not played like the hardest teams in the division yet? Do we still have do Team Tempest, Wash One Trick still have to play each other? Like, any like fun matchups that we have to look forward to?
Well, I will say that this week, Nerdy Pandas and Washed Up One Tricks are going to be playing, I believe, on that game gets strange. That's really be a sign of how playoffs are going to go. I think that Wasted Potential still has a couple of matchups. Let's check real quick. They've still got Team Tempest and Washed Up One Tricks on the docket, so we'll have to see how that actually influences standings. So we might see a little bit of shifting around in the middle of the pack. Nerdy Pandas, Wasted Potential, Happy Campers. I don't expect Team Tempest and Wash Up One Tricks to leave their standings. I mean, each other.
Yeah.
Looks like One Tricks actually took it to a.
Okay. But like there is the potential for a couple of upsets to happen in the last 2 weeks here, depending on how they play.
Oh yeah. I mean, for sure. If Nerdy Pandas is able to take it over Washed Up One Tricks, then that puts them in a very strong position. If they are able to knock out the last 3 weeks here, then they have a shot at 2nd seed. Wasted Potential still got some good matchups to show how playoffs are going to go. I mean, on the top half of the roster, team like Ionian is just it's going to be very interesting to see how playoffs go down here.
Yeah, because like obviously from the records that we see here, Tempest has played 8 games, so they're almost done. But like then we have teams like Wasted Potential, which only have 4 games played on the roster that we see reported. I mean, apparently they're sitting at 8-0, but like that's not reflected in the stats here because maybe those games didn't get reported properly or something like that in the stats. I don't know.
Yeah, we actually had an issue with our back-end system the other day, and so a bunch of data needed to be re-entered. So unfortunately, that didn't get done in time for this. But yeah, they're actually 8-0.
Okay. So
Wow.
they're actually sitting in first place with Tempest and Washed Up One Tricks right behind them.
Oh, so that means that the Pandas and One Tricks are going to be vying for that third and fourth spot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the clarification from
Yes,
chat on
thank you.
that. I had no idea that we had that stat error going in there. So thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. So otherwise, though, it seems pretty cut and dry. Like right now, there are no ties for any specific place in the standings. It's all pretty cut. You know, there's a first place team, there's a second place team, a third place, a fourth place. There's really no tie going on here yet. There could be a tie after the next couple of games, but as of right now, pretty cut and dry.
I'm pretty cut and dry overall.
Yeah. So, are there any players that you would like to highlight as like potential front runners for All Star voting coming up at the end of the season here?
Well, I think that when we talk about the top lane in Ionian, we have to talk about Tuba. I think that he's the highest ranked top laner in the league,
And he plays for Wash Up One Tricks, correct?
Yes, Washed Up One Tricks. Yes, he's a monster. I've gotten the pleasure of playing with Tuba for a few years, and he always comes out and performs.
Nice, nice. All right, so Tuba getting highlighted, very nice. And I know Gelati, you know, I know Gelati okay, and you know him being on a team with Gelati makes sense. Like the two of them, I can see them getting along personality wise. I'm assuming they know each other in real life, and because they've requested to play with each other. So
Yeah, they've known each other for a while. One other player that I do want to bring up though is Azini on Wasted Potential, I believe.
yes,
Yeah, that again, like one of the higher ranked AD carries in the league, and I mean the dude has a 76% in kill part.
yeah.
I
I mean,
mean, 15 KD. Those stats just kind of speak for themselves.
yeah. I mean, I've seen him on a stream. You know, I forget which matchup it was, but yeah, just very impressive play coming out of him for sure.
For sure.
All right, you got one or two more players to really highlight for us here?
Hmm. Well, I will say on the Nerdy Pandas, at least as far as support performances go, Lord has been very one of the higher vision scores inside of the game. And again, an Ionian with the play being so focused towards that macro vision is just he's a huge help to the team in just planning himself and making sure that he's on top of clearing out boards.
Yeah, well, I mean, with a name like Vision Lord, I would hope that the name is actually accurate, right?
Right? You'd hope so.
Like, if somebody names themselves Renekton top only, I better only ever see that guy play Renekton.
Hey, why you gotta call him out like that, dude?
I couldn't help it.
He switched his name. It's all right.
I couldn't help it. I had to point it out because like I see people that name themselves like that all the time. Like when Annibot is streaming on Twitch and Annibot doesn't pick Annie, I'm like, why did you name yourself that? Get out of here.
And he might have been banned in High Challenger. You never know.
Oh, Ansem comes through in chat here with a really fun fact to know about the Wash Up One Tricks, Gelati and Tuba's team. They've apparently known each other for years before League. The jungler, Mayor of Huevos, and their support, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. It's Bix with a bunch of letters after it. But apparently they're married, and the rest of the team attended their wedding. So that's super cool.
Wow.
Super cool. I like stories like that. So yeah, if we got more stories like that, we can keep them coming for the rest of the stream. But that's pretty cool. I like that. So yeah, thanks for talking about Ionia. I mean, like it seems like in a way, what's going on in the division is exciting, but it's also like not exciting at the same time, right? Because like as of right now, the standings are pretty cut and dry where every team ranks. But again, you know, going into the next couple of weeks here, we could see some really exciting upsets, and like it could actually have major implications on playoff seeding, like right here in the next couple of weeks, our last 2 weeks of games.
Yeah, I mean, there's only really one team that's out of the running for playoffs right now, and it's really just gonna depend on how well people play. I think that we could see seedings change for playoffs all over the place. We could see like even my team Nerdy Pandas, like we could be just out of the playoffs off of a couple bad weeks. I
Yeah.
think that it's interesting in that more like yeah, like you said, in a cut and dry way. right? Like there's just going to be very definitive swaps that are going to happen rather than huge upsets.
Yeah, like for right now, it doesn't seem all that exciting in like the current standings. But depending on where the division is next week when we talk again, like they might be the most exciting division to talk about, where there's like a 3-way tie for first now or something, for all we know, or like a 3-way tie for second. I mean, so we have no idea how that's actually going to end up next week, but we'll see if it gets more exciting. We'll see if like we're going to have a lot more hype matches for determining playoff seeding. But let's move on to talk about the next division. Next division, we're going to take a little bit of a swing and go from the highest division to the second lowest division. We're going to talk about UnCEALed now. And this division is going to be a little more interesting to talk about for a couple of reasons. So Shadow, take it away, and let's talk about Noxus for a second here.
Yes. So Noxian division. So for everyone who is watching and may not be aware, this is kind of a silver gold level division. So it's significantly lower than Iodian. But we had quite a spread of players, and I was really excited to see how some of these teams were going to stack up against each other. Unfortunately, we had two teams that ended up getting removed due to rules violations, which was super unfortunate, especially this early in the season.
Really unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a shame it happened. We really didn't want it to, but we really didn't have a choice. So we have 4 teams left: Bronze 5 Age, Team Renegatus, Enigma, and Stars United Esports Club. And what I'm pretty excited about is all of these teams that are left. We are really close in player rank, right? I think if I remember going back to the team creation process, they were within a couple, maybe like 150 points of average team elo based on our scoring system. So
it's a very, very close division in that regard.
Yeah, like this was one that we were kind of looking forward to just because it worked out so well. The teams were so evenly matched, and what's really exciting is my own team, Bronze 5 Age, ended up being promoted from the Demacian division last year. So this was going to be a good test for us. And so far, we're actually, if you look at the standings there, we're actually in first place at 6-2, which is kind of amazing, all things considered.
Well, now they're going to be in first place at 8-0 because of Keyboard Cats getting taken out of the league.
Again, the standings still need to be updated a little bit, but and is it Renegades? Is that how I'm supposed to pronounce that?
Renegatus.
Renegatus. Okay.
Yeah.
My apologies there. Anyway, though, so we have these 4 teams, and it's been for 3 of the teams. I talked to their captains today in preparation for this to kind of get a better feel for them and some information I can share about it. All of them have at least some new members, right? There's not these aren't teams coming in with lots of experience or reps under their belt. So they're all kind of dealing with their own feeling out process and trying to figure out what their identities are and how they're going to play together, which is a fascinating concept when you're talking about a season like this, where you've got 6 weeks to take 5 people and build a team and compete and try to win. And the standings are surprisingly close, right? There's no one that's out of it, right? Granted, 4 teams are all going to make the playoffs, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But the point of it is, like, it's not lopsided. It's really close. Like, Bronze 5 Age is ahead because we've had a couple other 2-0 wins, but Renegatus, Enigma, and Stars United, they're all neck and neck. And if you guys, if anyone caught the stream, Renegatus and Stars United played, I think it was just last night, right? They played last night, and it was a 1-1 split, and it was a very close game. Both games were really exciting to watch and put a lot of the players, really had a chance to showcase their stuff. So very exciting things going on here. All teams have a big focus on macro in this league. None of us are really kind of be super showmanship. Like we don't play a lot of flashy champions on these teams. There's a lot of team play. There's a lot of macro play, working on split pushes and controlling vision around objectives. Like it's a really fun and exciting thing. And so talking about playoffs moving forward, because it's 4 teams, we're actually going to move into a double elimination bracket once postseason comes around. And that I think is really going to be exciting for this division because we're all so close together. When you're talking about double elimination, right? If you lose to a team, you get a chance to see them again later on in the bracket. And I think what that means is that it's going to be wide open, right? Just because Bronze 5 Age may go in at the top of the division, there's no guarantee that they're really even going to be favored because if they see a team that second time around, it's hard to beat a team again when they can know what you've done, plan for it, and be able to comp specific to defeat a certain play style. I'm really looking forward to this. I think these are going to be some great games.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, to your point on, being able to see another team again and face them again, and like the outcome could be entirely different because of the experience you got from the first time you faced them and all of the new scouting and new preparations that you've done leading up to the second time you see them. You could have a completely different game. Could be entirely different,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which one of my coaches in high school, but it was one of my football coaches in high school who, every time we lost to a team, he would give us a pep talk and he would essentially say like, hey, you were going to face these guys like 2 more times this season. We had a really small like division, so we played every team like 3 or 4 times, but like anyway, and he would always say like it's never over. Like, that if they haven't beaten you 3 times in a row, that you can always beat them. It's never over until they beat you 3 times in a row, because then that's when you guys are finally going to lose your confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's very applicable here.
Yeah. So I mean, I truly believe you when you could go any teams, especially because we all know Bronze 5 Age, as much as we love them, it's usually a fiesta when they're involved.
If we are nothing if not entertaining, and let me tell you, we love
about top teams
to
and
cut
just wanting to
things
fiesta.
close.
I still love the one clip where Karen Franz was playing on your team, and he's playing Olaf, and he's going, "I'm invisible, they can't stop me," and then they immediately kill him. Guys, they stopped me.
It is tremendous. We have a pretty good time playing, and that's something else that came up in talking with all the other division captains, is how every team in Noxus has a real emphasis on not only teamwork, but on creating a positive attitude. Like that was a consistent message across all 4 teams, that there's no point in getting down on themselves or worrying, and certainly not flaming, right? That's just not something that's constructive. And every team has real emphasis on that. And that's exciting to hear, right? That so many teams come into this league with that same kind of positive attitude, and they're able to carry it through and see results as it in action,
Yeah, I completely agree with that. This division, this league is supposed to be for fun. It's supposed to be for learning, and you use this team competitive environment as a way of learning just how to get better at the game in general, right? So there's no reason to flame your teammates or the other team. There's no reason to get tilted, because it doesn't help you learn. It doesn't help you develop your own skill.
Absolutely.
So what are some early contenders for All-Star voting from your perspective here, going into the last few weeks of the season before voting comes in?
This one, I think, is going to be really close all around. Again, with all the players being fairly close in rank, right? There's not anyone that's had, is head and shoulders above everyone else. But just kind of going down the list here on the rosters, if you look at Stars United, their bot lane combinations are really good. Perseverance is, we faced him before on his Lucian, and it's devastating. Like that's if Perseverance brings out Lucian, that's gonna be a bad time for the other bot lane. Goyner is very aggressive in the mid lane. I've had the privilege of laning against him previously, and he can make it real painful. Bronze
Yeah,
5
but he isn't playing anymore because his team got disqualified.
No, not Stars United. They're in.
Oh, Goyner's listed as a member. Oh, sorry, I saw Grewer. My bad. My bad.
Yeah, no problem.
My bad. Don't pay attention to me. Sorry, guys. I was just confused there for a second. My bad. My eyes are horrible. Don't mind me.
Don't worry. Twitch chat was correcting you as well, so we'd be fine. So Goyner, yeah, very very aggressive mid laner. Had the privilege of laning against him a number of times. He's always going to do what it takes to get his team rolling. Bronze 5 age. I'm a little biased here, but
maybe just a little bit.
we had coming into this season, we actually had the idea to switch up our positions. So we have 4 of our positions being manned by people relatively new to the role, and Alston Restip has done a tremendous job top lane adapting to that role up there. Prophet, if you remember, was a really good ADC. Is transitioned to mid really well. Cephas, I think the other day had a 17 kill performance as ADC.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, Onino Kid, tremendous in the jungle, engaging on Vi. And I think he's had a couple. A couple of Udyr games I think were very good as well. And if you've ever seen Psycho Pez play Alistar.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a work of art right there. But
yeah, he just pulls the trigger without necessarily caring about what the rest of you guys are. He just pulls the trigger and hopes that you're all going to follow up, and you usually do. But
yeah. So moving along, Enigma Hyaris is a fantastic top laner. He's performed well across multiple seasons now, and is usually the focus of a number of bans from opposing teams. McSwiggan, another solid mid laner, always does what he needs to do. And Monumental Kill, I want to bring this out as an interesting tidbit that I just learned about half an hour before the stream begins. Monumental Kill is one half of a father-son duo in this league. His son is where did I write that down? He plays on Dirty Band-Aids. Yes, Dirty Band-Aids on Gank Top, please. So I found that absolutely, utterly fascinating. And I absolutely asked him for permission to share that, which he was kind enough to give. So I think that's really awesome that we have a family operation going on here in Seal this season.
It is super cool. I mean, like, it's really awesome whenever, like, I mean, maybe call me like a weird, like nerd who's like super in touch with my feelings. I don't care, but like, I love stories where like video games are bringing people together.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, but if you can participate with your family in something you love, like that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
I mean, while we're talking about family ones, I'm pretty sure Grayley and Azingi in Ionia are brothers.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know that.
That is super cool.
Nice. Yeah. See,
yeah,
we're learning stuff new every day. So okay, I don't want to leave out Renegadus here. They have a couple of good solo laners in Captain Goose and Diving, who again I've had the privilege of playing against. They're super aggressive, and if they get rolling, man, they are going to be hard to stop. And their bot lane duo is also pretty good as well. Lightning, especially when he flexes into the jungle, can pull out a Nunu that'll give you a bad time.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, we got a couple more weeks here going, and while every team is in the playoff seeding does matter, So it'll be interesting to see exactly how all that moves around and changes as we go into the playoffs here. But yeah, thanks a lot for everything you just said about Noxian. I found it very educational. I learned some new things about the players now. Thank you. All right, so the next division we're going to talk about, we're going to move up to Shurima. We're gonna save Demacia for last because there is some stuff to talk about in Demacia. But let's talk about Shurima. Take it away, ZZ Dog. What do you got to say about these standings here between these teams?
Okay, so these standings are really interesting. Like, we're gonna ignore Delicious Daddios at the top right now because they're pretty much locked. But other
Yeah,
than them,
yeah.
everybody from Kamikaze Penguins through Ravenous Kumquats still hasn't are all relatively close. And along that same line, Ravenous Kumquats and Dandelion Knights also have played mostly teams towards the bottom, so they haven't really proven themselves against those top teams. I believe both of them still have to play DD as DD's last two matches, and so that'll be an interesting test for them. ABCDE, I believe, also has to play one of them. ABCDE has to play Kumquats. So
Okay.
yeah, you have a lot of division there in that a lot of these teams fighting over those second through fourth place spots haven't played each other yet. They've mostly played GBM and Kamikaze Penguins.
All right. Yeah. So essentially, what we're seeing here in the standings is that Delicious Daddios is likely locked in for first place unless they happen to go, 0-4 in their next two games.
Yeah, unless they do something like Poppy and Nivea bot lane, I don't think they're gonna lose.
I mean, yeah, they're, they're locked in for a playoff spot no matter what happens. They are in the playoffs. It's just a question of what seeding they get at this point.
Okay, I think mathematically speaking, there is a chance that they can miss it. Like, it'd be a really slim chance. They'd have to really mess up, and other teams would have to really capitalize on that. But I think it's still technically mathematically possible until they win an eighth game that they could drop out.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I never claimed that math was my strength. So yeah, so we got Ravenous Kumquats, we got Dandelion Knights, we got, like, they still have to face each other, and they're only one game away from each other in the standings right now, so that's going to be super interesting when they face off. ABCD Esports facing Kumquats, they are tied in their record, so that's going to be a big deciding game for both of them. Yeah, like there's a lot of I guess I'll call it drama going into the last 2 weeks between like a lot of these teams because like it really matters for them.
Yeah,
Like these last 2 weeks are going to matter more than the first 3 weeks did for all of these teams.
yeah, it's always interesting when you have like two teams that are outliers on either end of the standings, and then all the ones in the middle are just so close like that. It makes for a really interesting last 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, any specific shout outs you want to give for some highlights from the season, or any players you want to point out for early contenders for the All-Star voting here going in?
Okay, All-Star voting I find really interesting, especially if we're talking about mid and support, because those two roles are really stacked in Shurima. The other ones are a little bit less so, but if you're looking at like mid and support, for mid lane, we have people like Mansford, who's incredibly good in the mid lane, but we also have Mega Average, who's really good on Ravenous Kumquats. Nikomite is always solid. Like, he's the bang-esque player of Delicious Daddios. While they're going to a Quinceañera, he's just sitting mid lane and not falling behind. And then you have, for Dandelion Knight's mid laner, I have no idea how to pronounce it, but he plays like nothing but 80 carries mid lane and just always pops off. So like that all-star voting for me is really interesting. And then again in the support position, you have obviously myself, not to sound too conceited. You have Ansem, who's pretty good. I don't know.
like especially because he switched from being a top laner to a support just this season.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job in that transition. And then you also have Dirty Band-Aids, which he has a bit of a beef with. And then Dirty Band-Aid straight up dodged him by changing to ADC when they played against each other. So we never really got to see who was better. And then you also have Senpai Daisuke, who, despite being on GBM, is like looking like as the standout player in an otherwise kind of floundering roster. So I find those votes to be really contentious in those two positions. If we're looking at other roles, I don't think it's as hard. Like in jungle, you have like Always Gonna Game, who I think is probably the best jungle in the league. He's on Kamikaze Penguins. AD carry is a bit weird because I think Delicious Dadios is the best ADC in the league, but he's a sub and not officially on the roster. So then you have to look like, okay, well, who's second best in the league? And then it gets a little bit divisive. Top lane, I don't even want to talk about, man. That one's a bit weird. I don't know anything about any of the top laners really, other than my own, and so I'm just gonna leave that one alone.
All right, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I mean, like we've seen some of these players on stream, like with the matches that they played. Like, the Nutcase made some really good plays in a match they had very recently, and he's on Gank Top Please. He stood out in my mind when I was watching that match. I don't know if he's necessarily better than any of the other top laners, but Cheese Blaze being on Delicious Dadios, that whole team is really good. So, I would say Cheese Blaze is also a top contender. But again, like I don't play in that division. I'm only speaking from what I've seen from matches on streams that we've done. But both of those players stood out in my mind up in top lane.
Yeah, and if we're talking about like recent pop-off performances, I'll bring it back to the jungle. SSC Superhero in Delicious Dadio's last series that was streamed played Zac with Smite Ignite and went like 10-1.
Jeez.
Like that, yeah, that was just an insane game. Like if you haven't seen that one, that was a fun one. We had Anivia Poppy bot lane with Zac jungle, and he just sat bot lane for like 5 straight minutes. It was an interesting one, to say the least.
What I find most ridiculous about that series was that he only did 11k damage as opposed to the highest damage that was like 24k or something like that, and yet he had this insane like 10-1 and 9 KDA.
He did more damage than the Kaisa on our team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you got a lot of good players in this league. I mean, I know both the Amo and Minor Threat because I played with them last season on Defiant. So I know how good Minor Threat is in mid lane, and I know how good Mega Average and Mansferg are also in mid lane. Like that mid lane voting is going to be stacked. Like I don't know who's going to win mid lane voting for All Stars in this division. I really have no clue.
Yeah, it's so close. There's so many people that I feel like I'm jipping if I'm not mentioning them.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if your division really is that competitive, where like any player is up there in people's minds for all-star voting, then like that's a hyper competitive division, and that means that like this division is actually very well balanced between all the teams in it, and that's what we want to go for.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, thank you very much for talking about Shurima division. Let's move on to talking about Demacia. And maybe I'm a little biased because I'm playing in this division, but I really think that we have a lot of very interesting stuff happening in Demacia going into the last 2 weeks of the season. For one thing here, I would like to point out that the standings are not entirely accurate, mainly because Amber O2 played their 4th week match just earlier this week. So they're actually a week ahead of everybody else right now in the standings. They went 2-0, so they're actually in first place with a 6-2 record. But my team, Sentinels, plays Men's Women's Tournament tomorrow night. So if we go 1-1 in that match, then there is now going to be a 3-way tie for first place going into the final week of games. And
that's
to me,
super cool. Like that's actually amazing.
Yeah. So to me, the fact that we have a possibility of a 3-way tie for first place going into the last week of games, like that's so hype. That's so exciting. Like I'm so excited just to find out how good all of these teams do in their last week, because it really matters for every single team. I mean, you could say that Sentinels, Men's Women's Tournament, and Amber O2, that we all have we're all guaranteed to be in the playoffs. You could say that just looking at the numbers here, and we kind of are locked in for playoffs at this point, all 3 of us. But at the same time, we have Team Support Main and Incendium Gaming fighting for that 4th place spot. They're going to be fighting up until their very last game for who's going to be team number 4 going into the playoffs, and that's so exciting. Obviously, we have this downside where Defiant has not won a single game. They're 0-8 or 0-6. I think they played earlier this week, so they are 0-8 right now. Yeah, they played against Amber. So they're 0-8, haven't won a single game. And while that's depressing, I want to give a special shout out to Defiant on the stream right now for everybody watching, because even though they have not won a game, they have been fighting every single game for that win. You know, they have not given up. And I got to give a lot of respect to them for that, having that mindset and having that attitude.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the things that we kind of encourage here, and we do our best to balance teams and things like that. But obviously, that's not guaranteed that you're going to win a game. But we like
Yeah.
to see teams compete, and we like to see them not give up and keep that positive attitude. So, shout out to Defiant for doing that.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's not easy when you're not winning games. It's really hard to keep a positive attitude. It's really hard to keep fighting, and especially Aileron Roll being the top lane player for their team and their captain. My team Sentinels really owes a lot to him specifically because he subbed for us for 4 of our games at the beginning of the season. So without him, I don't know how we because we won 3 of our first 4 games because he was our sub. And I don't know if it would have turned out the same way without him. So, a special shout out to Ailer and Earl specifically for that. Like, it meant a lot to us that you were willing to do that. But, going into the rest of the season here for this league, it's going to be close. The top 3 teams are going to be very close heading to playoffs for seeding. And then we have no idea how Team Support Main and Incendium's fight is going to go down for that 4th place spot. No clue. So this division is a good one to keep your eyes on heading into the playoffs and heading into that bye week between regular season and playoffs to see where everything finally stacks up. And, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a couple of tiebreaker games that had to be played before playoff seeding was determined. Really wouldn't be surprised about that. But, now I'm going to shout out a few players here because I really want to point out some players that I think are early contenders for all-star voting. I'm going to start with my own team because I want to give a huge shout out to my 80 carry Grubby Nation. His stats are actually pretty crazy right now. He has his KDA ratio is at an 8.57. He has 34 kills, 26 assists, and he's only died 7 times in all of his games. So I want to give a big shout out to him. I think he is the front runner for the 80 carry position, if not one of the other main 80 carries in the league, like Zyar, not Zyari. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's HPYSSS for men's women's tournament is also a great 80 carry. So, he could easily get the votes. Zerolon is a well-known 80 carry in this division as well. Also could get a lot of votes. We have I think the 80 carry position in this division is actually really close overall between all the teams for voting. So, we got that going on for us here. Dillracker on Incendium is also a good 80 carry. Defiant has Ocean's Andrew, and he's had some great plays, some great individual plays throughout the season. Even though the stats aren't going to show it entirely accurately, Aileron Roll for Defiant, his stats on Defiant, I don't think accurately show how good of a player he is, because when he subbed in for my team in our matches, he had some amazing outplays. I mean, it was one of the first games of the season. We streamed it. It was Sentinels versus Incendium. He played Akali in that matchup, and he destroyed that team on Akali. So I think Aileron Roll is a much better player than what his stat line actually indicates. As far as mid lane goes, I might play in mid lane, but I am definitely not a front runner for an all-star vote in mid lane. I've died way too many times. But we do have some good mid laners. I mean, Zyari has played mid lane. Zyari's if you want to face the best Ari in the whole league, fight Zyari in mid lane and let her play Ari, because you're gonna get destroyed, right? So I think that's a front runner for mid lane all-star voting. Kazooie on Amber 02 is a great mid laner. And then Incendium Gaming, I mean, Hero Gamerman is their mid lane, and he's a fantastic Yasuo player. I have firsthand experience going up against that. So we got a lot of players all over this division that I would love to give a shout out to. I would love to give a shout out to every single player in this entire division, but we don't have time for that, unfortunately. But those are the players that stick out in my mind as being just excellent examples of how to play that specific position. Yeah, I mean, I just think there's a lot of talent down here, and that, depending on how the rest of the season goes out, the stats might get better or worse for some of them, but they're all really good players, and I just want to give a shout out to this division in general because everybody's been fighting really hard, and this division has been very close. And then I do want to announce this for everybody real quick. Aileron Roll sent me a message about it. Just some news about Defiant. Essentially, the team is not going to return next season in their current form. The players all just kind of had a mutual agreement to, find other teams to play for. But, Aileron Roll will at least be back, and he'll bring the Defiant name with him. So Defiant is not going away. They're just gonna have a slightly different identity next season is all it's gonna be. But again, I think they deserve a special shout out just because of how they've stayed in it this season, no matter like how bad the situation's been. And I couldn't thank them enough for just sticking with it, even though it's been really hard. But yeah, that's what I got for Demacia division. Who knows? Next episode, maybe we'll have a lot more to talk about because it'll be a lot more clear cut over like who's in first, second, third, and fourth. I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that it'll be a great discussion to see how teams are actually matching up once we get some of these seeds and start talking about matchups, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, going into playoffs, we'll know exactly what the matchups are going to be because of seeding, and we can really examine those and go into detail. But for now, every single team in Demacia has at least one loss. So, nobody's invincible. Every team has beaten one other team of like the top 5 teams going that have a chance at playoffs. They've all beaten one other team. So, it'll be really interesting to see where things line up. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Does anybody in here about any team or any player before we take a break before the patch rundown happens?
Did we want to go over metas at all?
Oh, like specific
Wow.
like metas that we're seeing from each division.
Yeah, I know we mentioned it in DMs, but I don't know if we actually want to go over it or not.
Well,
I mean, if there's anything really interesting or weird that you want to point out, yeah, let's point that out now. Like, I mean, I think Demacia has played more Galio picks than every other division combined.
I'd believe it. I think that Stream only has 1 Galio pick total.
Yeah, I mean, I've played Galio in mid twice, and I know another team has also played Galio in Demacia. So,
Okay, funny thing about the Galio pick in Shurima, it's picked by the mid lane for Dandelion Knights, and it's the only champion he's played that isn't an AD carry mid lane.
yeah, but this is the same guy that also played Jinx mid lane just the other day, right?
Yeah, he played Jinx mid with Tyr and Zap maxed.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jinx is one of the 8 champions in Shurima that's been flexed now.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy.
Joining the likes of Rammus in that prestigious flex pick status.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's been kind of funny in Demacia because the support picks have all been pretty consistent across the board. Like everybody knows who the top support picks are. Your pick Nautilus, Leona, pick stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
interesting
man.
in Shurima because like support and jungle both have 17 different champions picked, so it's like pretty open. But then you have top with 21 different champions picked up there, and a lot of them are like really weird. Like you have like a Hecarim top one game, which isn't like super weird, but it's a little unusual. And then you have like Rammus top, which was played twice as a counter to Urgot. And Urgot has only been played into that counter pick and never into anything else because it's also only been picked twice. And then the most picked top laner is Shen, and he only has 4 picks.
So like top lane is like easily the most
Yeah, it's like such an awkward distribution because almost every champion that's been picked top has been played twice.
yeah. No, like it's really funny to me how like different divisions have different metas. I love figuring that out. Like it was 2 seasons ago before we formed this league where like every single team played Cho'Gath.
Oh my god, I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, like every single team would either play Cho'Gath or ban Cho'Gath every game.
Oof.
And like some people still play a lot of Cho'Gath, and like some people like still pull that ban. But like I think a lot of people now in this league, like they've either like increased how many champs are in their pool up in top lane, or they've just gotten better with other champs so that like Cho'Gath is not nearly the concern that it used to be.
I think the meta, just in general, for League of Legends as a whole, has also moved towards like more aggressive carry top laners and away from tanks since then as well.
Yeah, I would generally agree with that. I think for Ionia, it's so interesting to watch some of these pick ban phases because like every single player has at least one champion that you want to ban away from.
Yeah.
You have to take it away from them.
No,
You know?
absolutely.
And it's so you end up with these really like pulled together comps of champions that are maybe like third, fourth on a person's most played list, and
Yeah.
it really comes down to a lot more of how the comps function overall because everybody who's really good at a champion, it just gets banned away.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, like I find it to be a lot more frequent down in the lower divisions and the upper divisions where you're you're banning champions because a person is like either a one trick at that champion, or like that person's got like a 60% win rate on that champion or whatever, or has like games played on them. So you're like, nope, we're just going to ban that champion. And then like, I'd like to think that as you get more skilled at the game, as you get better at the game, as your team gets better at the game, you're more concerned with what champions can they pick that are going to mess up the team comp we want to go for versus just like what champs is this person best at. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'll be completely
Yeah.
honest. In Shurima, I think it's still one tricks. Like every time we play against a team that has somebody who has like 300 games played on something, we're like, no. I don't think that ever really changes.
Yeah, that's still something that I know our team looks at in Noxus. Like, if you've got a person who is head and shoulders more mastery points on a champion, more often than not, they just earned themselves a ban.
Like, unless you have like a specific counter to it, if you see somebody has like 400,000 mastery on something, you're just like, how about no?
I just don't want to deal
Yeah.
with it. I just don't. It's not
Right?
worth it.
well, yeah, but at the same time, like I don't want to give away anything about my team. Like people should have been banning my 80 carry for a while now, and like they just don't do it. They just
Yeah, no,
still like don't do it.
people just like recently started banning away Zillion against us every single game, and that's been like the most played champion for our mid lane since last season, like week 3. And like just after the finals of last season did they start banning it.
Yeah, like it's really funny how sometimes your team draws a ban, and you're just sitting there going like, why did you ban that?
Yeah, I definitely feel
Right.
that.
Like it happens sometimes, and you're just caught a little off guard because you're like, why would you ban that over like the other champion that we play instead? Like I've drawn a Malzahar ban like 2 or 3 times, but like my Oriana is better than Malzahar, so I don't know why my Malzahar gets banned, but like whatever, I'll take it.
I don't think anyone wants to pay QSS tax.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
I think
right.
a lot of the times when I do see that, like we'll see a band come through, and we're like, what the heck is that? We haven't played that in months. And then you realize after the game, it's like, well, okay, so they played this. That may have been a kind of a higher level thinking ban. Like we just didn't want to risk dealing with it, as opposed to someone being particularly well practiced on it.
Yeah, just real big brain moments there
Yeah.
that like
Mhm.
you didn't have a big brain, they had a big brain. Oh, I
Yeah,
get it now.
and it's one of those things where afterwards you're like, oh, I think they outthought us in draft this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say though, one of the interesting things about Ionia is that everybody has such a huge amount of respect for the Yasuo combos. If you pick Gragas, the Yasuo band's coming out.
Yeah.
Like all the time. I mean, our jungler plays Malphite jungle, and sometimes we'll get into the second ban phase, and teams will just nope out of a Yasuo.
Yeah. It's really fun. like sometimes you can tell what kind of a team comp a team is going for in their first 2 picks, and other times you have no clue what's going on. Like if somebody picks like a Nautilus and then a Gragas, you're like, Yasuo's coming.
Yep.
Yasuo's gotta be coming. And even if Yasuo's not on the table for the other team, ban Yasuo anyway.
On the topic of Yasuo, can somebody please give our ADC Yasuo? We're sick of seeing Yasuo first round bans every time. Like, it's so annoying. We never get Yasuo anymore.
Oh
Like,
man,
I can't.
Cesarius bugged us for months to let him play Yasuo. And we finally let him do it, and the whole time we were like asking him, like, Logan, what's going on? He's like, I'm playing Yasuo.
Well, okay, so like when my team played Defiant, we couldn't get Ailer enrolled to sub for us again because he was on Defiant. So why would he play against his own team? So we got Diving to sub for us top lane, and Diving played Yasuo in our first match against them. And someone in chat, I don't know who, but it was one of his teammates, just types up in chat in the middle of the game, is just like, "Hey, where was this Yasuo for us this whole time?" It's fantastic. But yeah, like I find it really interesting how some teams really prioritize like getting bot lane picks earlier. Some teams really prioritize getting their top laner, their champion right away, and just like how teams like quantify which is more important for them and their specific team and how they work.
Yeah, draft dynamics are not really something that we get a chance to talk about a lot, but it's something that in this space in a league like this, where we've actually got people discussing standings, we've got people discussing matches, we actually get a little bit of space to do that, and it's really interesting to see team philosophy and like who they really the what it comes down to is who they give the counter pick,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not something that you normally have to deal with in normal play.
Yeah, like we actually have the luxury of communicating picks with each other and saying, no, we should probably pick our support in the first round, or like, no, like we don't want to get this specific mid lane champ banned in the second round of bans, so we have to pick our mid lane champ before that happens, things like that. And like when you're playing solo queue, that's never a discussion anybody has with each other.
Nope. Pick my champ.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, but yeah, so anyway, I'm pretty much good with this episode. I think we had a lot of really good discussions here, and I'm really looking for next time we do this because division standings are going to be a lot more exciting after this, and once we get into the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how the season plays out. There's a lot of tight races in a lot of divisions, not just for the top, but even just the middle of the pack seedings and those last spots. So I think there's some great games ahead of us, and I can't wait to review this again in a couple weeks. Hopefully we can do this again before we go into playoffs.
Yeah, I would love that.
For sure.
But yeah, so
coming for you.
So yeah, Twitch chat, thank you for coming and hanging out with us. We love that we had such a big turnout here for our very first episode. Thank you so much for hanging out and chatting in there. If you stay tuned, we're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break, and then we're going to have another discussion here about the patch 9.19, which just came out today, right? Today's Wednesday, right?
Today's patch day.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So yeah, we're gonna have a big discussion going along about that patch and what those changes mean going into Worlds for pro play and what it's gonna mean for us going into playoffs, because that patch is gonna be around for the entire rest of our season, I believe. So yeah, stick around. We'll take a break and we'll see you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from that lovely breakdown of the divisions and where we stand. We are going to be doing a patch breakdown. Broadcasting here from my mom's basement is Bucci Boy 989. With me are ZZ Dog, my main man, and then Senpai. I don't know how to say the rest of your last name, so teach me, Senpai. Teach me. So what do we have going on tonight, guys?
Yeah, we have some patch rundowns.
All right, patch notes. I love patch notes. Let's have some fun with this. So, not a lot probably coming down the line in, just broad strokes of, nerfs, buffs, nerfs, aside from maybe a few targets here and there, just so that, it's the world's patch. So this is what's going to be played. So they're not looking to make, that juggernaut faux pas that they had like 2 worlds ago.
I don't know, man. I think the addition of Kaisa and like the Brawler's Glove items are like really big, actually.
Oh God.
Oh wait, wrong patch.
With how much I probably see Kaisa banned, she's probably a new champion at this point. So still really strong. We'll get to that later, but she has been untouched this patch. So prepare to see a lot of Kaisa. So, we're going to kind of just take a nice dive into it with number 1 being Aatrox. Now, he was nerfed really hard, hit really hard with the bat last patch. This patch, they kind of brought a little bit of that back with a minion damage reduction from 60% to 45%. Are we going to see him back in the top lane?
Okay, so last patch I think was just like a bit too hard, and I'm pretty sure this is just back to the number it was before last patch. It might still be a nerf from 2 patches ago, but I expect we'll probably still see him at Worlds, but I don't think he's good. I don't think he was good before the nerf. I think bros just didn't want to let go of him because he had been meta for so long they didn't know how to play anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I think we hopefully will not see Aatrox by anybody, but because the LCK has been so, for Aatrox, honestly, the Aatrox nerfs were literally just LCK nerfs. It was... I don't feel like anybody else was seriously trying to play him consistently.
And we've seen people like Huni bring counters to it with the Gangplank just rolling through lane with those barrels.
Yeah, man, and the Karma top, that one worked real well.
Yeah.
I think Gangplank is a better Aatrox, and I think he's been a better Aatrox for a while. I just think, honestly, like, the LCK was... Maybe they put so much time into Aatrox, they just continued to... try and beat a dead horse or something, but I still don't think that this is a pick that hopefully the pros pull out, and probably not one that you should be pulling out in solo queue right now.
I mean, I'm just personally tired of the Aatrox, of just seeing it in general, but, I'd much rather see the Aatrox than I would rather see the Karma, because top lane tank Karma is abysmal to play against.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Aatrox was it's been like top tier or close to it since Rift Rivals of last year. It's like when something is being played that often and practiced that much, it just takes so long to move on from it. And you kind of have to do something drastic like gutting him to finally tell people to just stop.
But a lot of these teams kind of derive those strategies into the Aatrox. I mean, he doesn't really need a lot. Just the fear in the ultimate is enough to kind of be able to still utilize him in team fights. So kind of final thoughts on those. Just shoot him at me one at a time here.
He's bad, don't pick him.
He's bad, don't pick him. Garbage tier, get out of here. Yeah. All right.
He's moving in the G tier.
G tier. All right, moving on to the next one. We have a repeat here of the top 3, Aatrox, Akali, and Annie from patch 9.8. Akali, she got a same situation. Maybe they hit her a little bit too hard with the ugly stick and brought it back. A lot of max damage coming out on that ultimate at rank 1, 225.
Yeah, it's just back to the number it was before the nerf last patch. The problem with Akali is that, one, the stun was the big playmaking potential for Akali.
Yep.
You would use the stun to guarantee the E, and then at that point you guarantee the kill because you can then guarantee your R2. You can't do that anymore, so giving her this damage back doesn't really matter. And then that was her like playmaking in pro. And in solo queue, the problem she runs into is they nerfed her ult cooldown so much last patch that it's like damn near impossible to snowball on a Akali because you only have
Yeah.
your ult every like 2.5 minutes or something now, and you're not building CDR, so you're not getting it any sooner unless you're taking CDR runes, which you don't particularly want to do.
And it's just one of those things, they hit her just a little too hard, so now they're bringing it back. I really don't expect to see a lot of Akali just because there are so many really good picks into her, and kind of bringing me to my next point with the champion that got buffed again with the E is that Annie. I love picking just easy, blow your wad on everybody, especially if they have like an AoE stealth, and eventually you're gonna hit something.
Yeah, Annie is strong now. If you're looking to climb at all from anywhere, pick Annie.
Pick Annie. The old LS12. Pick Annie. But I mean, looking at this movement speed boost, it went all the way up to 30 to 60% decaying movement speed and a lower cooldown at higher ranks. So you're not really going to prioritize it that early, but just 30% with 1 point into it is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, max Q, then max E instead of maxing W if you don't play Annie all that much, and like charge at people like Hecarim.
Well, and you brought up the skill pathing. With that, you can really fit her into the support role and get off a lot of those forced engages, or even just really good roams using that decaying movement.
Does Annie even need Predator anymore?
No,
Not with those buffs.
Yeah, I've been trying her with celerity and water walking and doing as support and like running mid every like minute and just throwing down a stun and walking back to lane because I missed like 3 minions. It's like nothing big.
Insane. So tag those with Mobos if you really need them. Predator if you just want to kind of look like Hecarim running into lane and just kind of throw the enemy laner for a loop there. So any kind of last thoughts aside from we're probably going to be seeing more Annie?
Okay, just because we didn't really get to, I want to do like one more remark on Akali.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. By all means.
So, I expect come Worlds that Echo just replaces her. That's my prediction. I think Echo has been sleeper OP for way too long, and he keeps getting buffed. And now
Yeah.
that the go-to AP assassin is just gone, people will start trying other things, and Echo is just so incredibly strong right now.
And that's one thing, patch 9.8, they increased his stun duration on the W. So when you land that, you are like just the gank assist is insane.
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was 916 or 917 when they buffed his E as well. So he's been getting buffs for a while, and I think pros are probably starting to finally take notice of it. I've seen a lot of junglers actually trying him out in jungle on stream.
Oh boy.
So
Oh,
I mean,
God.
I think that Echo could be like the premier flex now that a lot of them have been taken out. But we'll get to the other flex picks later.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. So moving on to the next one, we have Ashe. I really like what they did with her this patch with it's only 5% slow at level 1, scaling all the way up to 20%. But that auto attack reset on the Q is going to do wonders for the level 2 trades, I think.
Don't sleep on the slow. The interesting thing about the slow is that the W actually increases it. I can't remember how exactly it works, but I believe it doubles the slow that you apply from an auto if you hit them with a W. So now that it's 5% higher, if you then hit them with a W, it'll be 10% higher, which is actually pretty big.
It is definitely pretty big. ZZ
Yeah.
Dog, or sorry, Senpai, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little biased here because I really, really like the Arcane Comet Ashe, mostly because I've been doing really well with Misfortune support, and I run Comet on her as well. And Double Comet in lane is abusive. There's nothing that they can do. Like, you have to run a healer, and then you're just trading mana bars, but like because you've got 2 arcane comets and damage from both arcane comets, the healer just can't keep up with it, and it's a pretty nasty combo. I still think that I would prefer a Jhin instead of the Ashe with Misfortune support, but that's just like personal preference. But Ashe as a whole is going to be big. I'm honestly thinking, I think it was like what 2015 Worlds where Ashe Zyra was huge.
I don't know. I think that was I think that was 2016 maybe.
Okay.
Because I don't remember which it was, but I just remember that there was one Zyra one trick in one of the European teams, I believe, and they just straight up didn't know Zyra was good, so they never picked it. And then as soon as they got eliminated from the tournament, all of the Asian region started picking Zyra. And then you had the deep pocket pick, Misfortune counter pick to the Zyra.
Yeah,
That was a very interesting world.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Ashe Zyra is going to be seen in Worlds.
And that auto attack reset, just being on the queue, because not only do you get the attack speed steroid and the additional slow, which is normal autos, the fact that she does now have that auto attack reset. If you pair her with somebody like Braum, who can get out that passive and just proc it real quickly, you're looking at a really fast stun with just an auto Q auto. So maybe we'll see some glacial comps, come out in the future. But any sort of last remarks here on the Ashe before we get to the real big one?
No, not really.
No,
yeah, I think I'm good.
All right, so moving into the next one, we have Blitzcrank. Everybody, prepare your buttholes. We have someone coming out to grab each cheek and just bring you to the enemy team. That range increase, holy buckets!
That's a really, really long range ability. It's like ridiculously long.
And watching that video from River, you can reach all the way to the other side of where blue is. So you can almost reach into that bush and grab the enemy jungler. So I'm expecting this to come out a lot in solo queue, get banned a lot in solo queue, and cause havoc.
Does anyone even know what the R buff is?
So while I believe they reduced it from 2 stacks or from 3 stacks to 2, but basically you have to be able to get off your autos. So what it does is that it rolls a stacking buff or debuff counter on the enemies. So when you land autos as Blitzcrank and then you pop your ultimate, it will deal increased magic damage to that target.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's just, and the reason why it's kind of slipping under the radar is because you have to get those autos in reliably, which is not always the easiest thing.
Yeah, I still think Blitzcrank's going to be a cheese pick. Like, people are not going to be used to the extra 100 range, but after like maybe a week or two, I feel like it's going to sort of go back to the same level of play in solo queue, at least, because like I do feel like in the next week or 2 weeks it's going to be huge. Like, you're going to see a lot more Blitzcranks than you are used to. But I think after that, it's going to slowly die down and just sort of go back to where he was before, because people will have just gotten used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't really bring as much like that you need from a support. Like, he's like a generic Thresh.
He's just a worse Pike, in my opinion.
Or
like,
that,
Pike
yeah.
just does everything he does better.
Yeah, I mean, at best, you've got like an AoE silence, but that means that he has to be in the back, like he has to be in the middle of the enemy team. But with his hook, you don't want him to be in the middle of the enemy team. You want him to be like pulling one person into the middle of your team. So
now the range increase, for turret sieges, you could pull somebody onto the other side of the, like where the wolves are. If you're on red side, you can pull someone from the basically between their turret and that wall all the way through to the other side of where wolves are, and that is a huge isolation. Now, one thing I'm maybe in lane is kind of the increased range is actually kind of a sleeper nerf, because a lot of Blitzcranks kind of take advantage of the balloon effect at the end of that skill shot. So further range means you have to either position yourself a little further back or you just overshoot the skill entirely. And, for those of you watching who don't necessarily know, when Blitzcrank hook reaches the end of his skill shot range, it'll actually search in a radius for a target. And if somebody is in range, it'll actually glitch, not really glitch, but it'll kind of realign the grab to that person. That's how you see a lot of people get grabbed behind minion wave. It's not a bug, it's just a balloon effect at the end of that skill shot. Causes mayhem in lower elos when you're not necessarily looking for it.
Resident Blitzcrank expert. Jeez, dude.
Listen, I'm a support main. I play a lot of support, and I don't like playing against Blitzcrank as much. But my duo, I really just ban it for him because if there's a Blitzcrank on the enemy team, he's getting grabbed. It doesn't matter what I do. And shout out to Skippy there for getting grabbed by every single Blitz. So I guess moving on, we've kind of covered everything on the Blitzcrank. Moving on, we have a Fiora, just a interesting change here. The Q now hits turrets again, and the E as well also hits turrets. Now the Q also can hit ward. So a little bit of attack recess there. Maybe get a little extra gold early on from a ward. But all I'm really expecting to see from this is maybe a little bit more side lane pressure from Fiora.
Do we know if the Q can hit invisible wards?
Do you mean after, normal wards when you drop them before they go invisible?
No, I mean because it used to be able, when you had Garen's E able to hit wards, it could still hit vision wards even if they were invisible. I doubt that it'll be able to do that, but if it can, that's pretty big.
I'd hopefully say that's not working as intended. But who knows?
I wish I would have had a chance to talk with my top laner about this one because T2 tricks Urgot and Fiora, but unfortunately I wasn't. I mean, it feels like it's good because Fiora, like it says there, often is good in lane but can't really push it.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully now she can just push it harder, get a couple more plates that she wouldn't have before.
Yeah, and that's one thing, Fiora is quote unquote, I guess, the grand duelist. So maybe we'll be able to kind of see her duel, get an advantage, and then start turning that into turret plates and turrets. So maybe that's kind of what they were looking for here. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I think that I don't think it's really gonna do anything, honestly, because the issue with Fiora was it wasn't like keeping the lead, in my opinion. It was getting the lead in the first place, and letting you do extra damage to turrets it's not gonna help you against the champions that you're playing against, like in the lane. So you have to get through the champions to be able to get to the turrets, and I don't think this doesn't really help her with champions. So because the thing is if she's ahead enough to be getting turret plates, I think it's not she'll get the turret plates sooner, but I don't think it's gonna be, because I think what they were trying to do is make it so overall she's a better pick. But this doesn't fix any of her actual issues. This just makes the things that she was already good, like when she was already good and winning the lane and being able to take the turret plates, this just makes her better at doing that.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the point. Because Fiora is a champion who has a lot of good lane matchups, but can't really capitalize on them, and then can pretty easily just get dumpstered mid game. Come a team fight, she's not very useful. Well, so getting her to the split push monster phase earlier is really important.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I don't think Fiora honestly should be team fighting. She's the duelist for a reason. She should be split pushing, and I think that's more of probably a player issue where they're trying to take her into team fights and less of an actual champion issue. I think that she's supposed to be split pushing. She's essentially Nasus before people realize that Nasus can just run at people and kill almost anybody with 500 stacks.
Yeah, and one of the points that Riot brings up here is Fiora is in an acceptable place when it comes to matchups. So maybe they're looking at matchups where she already succeeds, just can't kind of like what ZZ Dog said, can't convert that into, an actual,
That's true.
lane win. So that
Yeah,
might be
that's-
what they're looking at there.
Well,
That's
especially when
true.
you're looking at like meta top lane picks right now, like what's good? Like Aatrox isn't good, but he's meta. Fiora is a soft counter into Aatrox. You have things like Riven that Fiora is a skill matchup into that she can win hard if she's skilled enough. So it's like I think she's fine in the 1v1 situations. Just a matter of capitalizing on those.
Being able to cap. So shout out to Skippy there in chat. Thresh also has that balloon effect at the end of his Q animation. Just once it reaches max length, it just kind of glitches. Looks like it glitches to that champion. But I think we kind of beat the Fiora. We're gonna give her a little time to kind of regen some HP here as we move on to the Gragas. Now this is something that I've been looking forward to. Gragas nerfs with less or a longer cooldown and less percent max HP means he's going to have a little bit slower of a clear time. Maybe give some other junglers, a spot, a step up when it comes to that pressure in lane. What do we think about the W? Means nothing.
Literally nothing.
Yeah, I don't really think it's going to do too much with like actual clear. Like, I mean, it's definitely going to slow his clear. And 1% of a target's maximum health. I mean, I still think that he's going to be very prevalent. I mean, obviously this is going to decrease his damage, but Predator Gragas, like, it just does everything that a jungler is like needs to do.
Plus, like, if you're building AP Gragas like you should be, you're overkilling things anyway.
Yeah. So
the cooldown there, because early cooldown on that 6 seconds, just going through. I mean, you're doing blue buff. You could W, 2 times depending on, or red or blue, W 2 times. That is not just a 1%. It does add up at least for that initial clear. He doesn't have a lot of cooldown reduction. He doesn't have a lot of that damage initially. So it could give maybe junglers like Lisa and Elise, Jarvan, maybe more time to get those 2 camps and meet him for the 2v2 instead of being late and then you are now down on the the kill on the scoreboard.
This is not gonna make Gragas clear slower than J4. He's still gonna clear faster than J4. Elise is debatable, but he definitely still clears faster than Jarvan. Jarvan doesn't clear that fast.
But not necessarily Jarvan. But we're actually going to get to where did he go? Graves, is next. A lot of base stats there, but just the initial clear give you time to actually meet the jungler for the 2v2 versus being late because of that clear speed.
I mean, the thing with Gragas is his clear speed was already just so remarkably fast that slowing it down just a little bit doesn't really matter. He still has ridiculously fast clear speed.
All right.
This changes doesn't matter. I'll be completely honest, I don't think it matters in the slightest. It's like 0.5% win rate maybe.
Gotcha. So still S tier jungler there. So take me through to the next one then. Where do you see Graves with these all around stat increases to damage, health? Not necessarily the mana regen, but just the overall damage.
Riot, stop giving people 2 AD. It doesn't matter. Just stop. Oh my god.
I still feel like he's G tier.
Yeah, he's still bad.
I've had 3 Graves in probably 15. No, I haven't played 15 games. Probably somewhere around 10 ranked games since the patch change, and they've all still done terrible.
Okay.
2 AD is doing nothing.
Yeah, I played Graves last patch after that last round of buffs, just out of curiosity. I played him 2 games. I went 1-1. I went 17-4 or something in one of those games, and I still wasn't doing like any damage. It still felt like I was completely useless. Like the champion just doesn't do enough damage. They need to buff his ratios or something, because right now it's just.
Yeah, if you want like a huge DPS in jungle that's also AD, just pick like Kha'Zix.
Or Kindred. If you want an ADC, just play Kindred.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you need the range for whatever reason, just go Kindred.
I think with Kindred's reliance on getting those marks, it's really like I usually find no issue with kind of getting in there and stealing a lot of those marks whenever I'm playing against a Kindred. But that's me just kind of making an avid focus to single out that champion and put her behind as much as possible. But Graves, kind of like you guys are saying, maybe not as impactful as we're going to see, but That's me just hoping, being an old time Graves player before they kind of reworked his kit. I guess.
Yeah.
I miss the old buckshot.
The biggest problem that Graves runs into is his itemization right now is just a fiesta. Nobody knows what to build on him because there's nothing good to build on him.
Yeah, I think, I do think that we're going to see more of him, just like I've seen more of him in my ranked games already. But it's like a fake buff, where it's like, hey, play more of me, but I'm still not going to do anything.
Gotcha. Well, maybe we might see maybe we might just see, some more tanks coming out elsewhere in the lineup to enable that carry from the jungler, whether it's from something like a Kha'Zix or a Graves. But hopefully, like I said, I hope to see more Graves, but we'll see what happens. Now, one thing I really don't want to see again is Heimerdinger in the bot lane. But we have some interesting buffs. Now, talking through it real quick, we have an increased AP ratio on the base turret as well as the empowered ultimate turret. And then we have the stun duration increase from 1.25 to 1.5 seconds. So not a big increase, but maybe just long enough to, maybe just an increase enough to see, a little more gank assist. But are we going to see Heimerdinger again at Worlds for kind of like we did at MSI with
Fun
EU
fact,
teams?
Detonation Focus Me, the Japanese team's mid laner, is a Heimerdinger one trick in solo
Oh,
queue.
baby.
Yeah,
So-
I do think that we're going to see him.
I'd be
honestly,
very surprised if we didn't.
yeah,
Just a flat out yes. Okay. I can
think-
work with that.
I think if we don't see him, we're not going to see him because he's going to get banned. By to specific teams, like for instance, Detonation Focus Me, they're just going to know that with the Heimerdinger ban and maybe some scrims that they scrimmed against each other, that there's going to be some certain teams that just know that he's going to want to pull it out in certain situations and they'll just ban it.
And not even necessarily just in scrims. I mean, look at previous, I'm not sure if it was MSI or before that. But G2, Perks in the bot lane, huge mid lane player just playing carry roles. But when it gets to game 5, then he brings out this, usually the Syndra pick. But maybe we'll see him play Heimerdinger again.
Yeah, I don't know how good Perks' Heimerdinger is, because back when G2 used to play the Heimerdinger, it was Hjarn in there in the bot lane who would play it.
Mhm.
So maybe Perks is also a good Heimerdinger, sleeper OP. We saw it come out from Jensen. I wouldn't like to see that again.
Well, I just personally wouldn't like to see Jensen, but that's me.
All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna no comment on that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, you get permaban for toxicity, but here you are playing professional League of Legends. So
He didn't get
know what?
permabanned.
He got permabanned. His name was Incarnation.
Well, yeah, I know, but he appealed.
So anyway, there, Heimerdinger, maybe see it, maybe don't, maybe see it in the bans. We'll like I said, I'm not really looking forward to it, but I'm okay with if teams bring it out and maybe we see the Heimer versus Syndra, where you just kind of pick up his turrets, throw it into the turret, and it dies. That's personally in that matchup, I always love to do that.
Yeah, I think I actually saw that for the first time. Oh man, when it was one of my ranked games, probably in the middle of the season. I saw Syndra just start picking up his turrets and throwing them places, and I was like, whoa, hold on! I didn't even think about this. This is genius.
It's one of those things when you're looking through the old Google matchup in the middle of your ranked. Hey, who's good into Heimer? Syndra. And then you play it in lane. It's like, okay, you're gonna drop a turret and try to push it. I'm just gonna grab this, throw it into the Baron pit. All right, you got a little collection going.
I don't know. See, what the problem with that is, as a jungler, I've seen Syndras pick up the turrets and throw them out of the lane over into river. But then I've had games where the Heimerdinger turrets actually started stealing scuttle crabs as they walked by.
As long as you throw it out of range, you have to throw it on your side of the map, out of range, so that your jungler can just walk up and pick an easy 5 gold. So, Well, let's go through this next pick. We have Karma with her Q1 AP ratio decrease from 60% to 40%. So kind of a big chunk of the scaling damage taken down. The base damage is still going to be there, as the empowered damage will still be there. So, hopefully this takes a little bit of that top lane focus away.
Yeah, so I don't think it's actually going to do anything with the top lane. I think it's going to maybe focus very much on the mid lane and maybe like 80 carry karma, because I think we've seen a couple of those as well. But like tank karma, top lane is tank karma. Like she's really not there to
Not
do a whole
necessarily.
bunch of like damage. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the early
top
benefits.
lane karma usually goes a tank item into full support, so they're still getting AP. At least in pro play, that's what you see usually.
Yeah. Okay. I agree.
And as a big time, I played Karma a lot. I really love her kit, both before and after they changed it originally. A lot of the base damage probably does most of the work for her. So maybe hitting the scaling is just going to kind of take in tune a lot of that poke damage late game. Probably not going to see a big change into her early game start, aside from being able to take advantage of instead of going tank Karma to mid. So, I'm not really going to see a big change here in my play patterns with her. You're still going to look for, the empowered W's if you're in the middle of a team fight for the healing, into just the added bonus of the Q damage. It's just going to take a lot of that just total damage throughout the fight down a little bit.
All right, I gotta call you out here, High Aries. You're saying support karma gets hit the hardest. That's inherently not true. Mid lane karma gets hit way harder. Support karma does not have as much AP as mid lane karma, and never will.
I want to talk through that, because as support karma, you're building things that empower the shielding. So you're getting the redemption. You're getting, the not the Mikael's Crucible if they have a lot of hard CC, but you're also getting the Ardent Sensor, which all three of those increase the healing or the shielding that you do in general. You don't necessarily rely on that AP or the base AP ratio. You're looking for the the empowered Q damage in lane. So taking some of that damage out of the AP ratio isn't going to be as impactful. It's just going to open up some opportunities maybe for somebody to trade with her.
Okay, so like the thing with support karma and this change is that support karma peaks out around 200-ish AP depending on how you're building. Like if you have Athenes and like 2 items, like that's being generous. Usually the game's over by then. But like if you're at like 3 items and one of them's Athenes, you're peaking out around somewhere between 200 and 250 AP. So if that's the case, you're losing like not that much AP. You're losing like maybe 40-ish to 50-ish damage on that ability.
And that's not even the focus.
And yeah, exactly. That's not the focus of support karma. Like that 50 damage in that team fight isn't gonna matter all that much. And early game, this doesn't matter at all, because you're gonna have like 20 AP in lane, so you're literally missing like roughly 4 damage off that ability. That 4 damage is gonna matter so infrequently.
And one thing, if you are building more AP items on a Karma support, if you're against teams that are mostly squishy, you're not necessarily going to need those. That's where it actually opens you up to go, and I've done this several times and it works very well, is to go full tank Karma. You'd be surprised how really well it does into anything like a full AD team when you have Randuin's Thornmail and Ninja Tabby, when they do absolutely no damage, and it opens you up to those, not as much cooldown reduction, but you're getting off a lot more shields. You're locking down more people for your team to focus on during fights. But as a support Karma, you're going to look for the support items. So oftentimes I either find myself first buying either a redemption or an Athenes. It depends on how well lane is going, how much we're trading. But more often than not, I'm at least going toward a redemption for the team fights in mid game. Dragon control, I'm going for Rift Herald control, or just overall being able to join my team from a distance and help them fight. So you're not looking at that 40% AP ratio as impactful.
Okay, Skippy says Karma top and support got hit the hardest since the nerfs make you rely more on AP items for damage as opposed to her base damage. No, not really. Because the thing with the Q, the base damage is unchanged. And as Karma top, you're not building AP items until second or third item anyway, in which case that's when you're transitioning into support if we're talking about pro play. If we're talking about solo queue, you're just not buying AP at all unless you're buying Roa maybe, but even then that's kind of sus. So you're not buying AP, so this doesn't affect your damage profile whatsoever. And if you're support, once again, the damage doesn't matter because you're picking it for the E.
Yeah, you wanna ult shield in team fights like I think probably like 95% of the time. So it's not like you're gonna try and get huge amounts of AoE damage.
Well,
from your
most of the time in
teams.
team fights, especially as a support, you're getting off a lot of autos. You're getting you already have the cooldown reduction. You're getting multiple ults off. You're using your ultimate Q mostly as a slow, or your ultimate W as just a survivability tool, unless you can get off multiple shields in the middle of a team fight, which is a possibility. So that's more of what you're looking for. Top lane Karma mostly builds into cooldown reduction just for popping Kleptomancy as much as possible and snowballing that advantage into an Iceborne Gauntlet early for the cooldown reduction, just the increased slow. So you're not necessarily building any AP item. So, but
no, go ahead.
But like I said, as a big time Karma player, I'm not really seeing this change, and it's more of a scare factor for for people who try to focus on maybe the mid lane Karma.
Yeah, no.
Which there goes my one champion if I ever just have to play mid lane. So.
Yeah, to me this is just like digging at those Chinese and LCK teams that like to play Karma mid lane and buff up their ADCs, and just kind of trying to push that pick out of the mid lane with the like Ludens into full support build, and that's like what's really nerfed here. Other than that, nothing's like gonna be all that different. Her support lane is still fine. Her top lane is still fine. So I don't see it being that big of a nerf.
Don't want to see her in top lane anymore. But it is what it is. I've played it, and it's not fun for me to just sit there and win lane. I mean, I'll take the win, but at the same time, it's like this is interactive gameplay. Thank you.
I'll be completely honest. I don't think Karma top lane or mid lane was ever that good to begin with, at least in pro play.
Well, not in pro play. Now,
in solo queue, it's a complete monster, but that's not what I'm talking about. In pro play, I don't think it was ever that good to begin with because you see like these top lanes and these mid lanes playing Karma and to buff up their AD carry, and then they don't even shield their ADC in the team fight anyway. And it's like, what are you even picking this pick for?
You'll see it a lot from Fnatic when they do the Garen Yuumi bot lane. As a big time Fnatic fan, I love seeing one of the best ADCs in the world playing Garen. But you'll see them do this because Karma fits a niche where she can get buy in lane with her wave clear, and she builds Athenes into support items, which further empowers just the rollover ability of that Garen. So,
but like that's all well and good, but I'm talking about more like the LCK, LPL teams that really like to pick the Karma that I see.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have a really bad habit of like protecting themselves over the ADC that they're picked to protect. And so I think this is actually a buff to LCK and LPL, telling them to stop picking this freaking champion because you can't play it to begin with.
I mean, if they're not going to pick Karma, they're going to pick something else that kind of fits that. But Karma aside, I think we're ready to move on to the next one. Probably one of my favorite champions. First ones I ever started really maining was Mordekaiser. Oh, the old Mordekaiser.
Huge buff for Mordekaiser, man. You can see him in Spectate now.
Yeah, you can see him in Spectate, and you get a little 5% more of the damage you deal back. Not a huge change, not really a major buff, just a little bit of side lane presence. You might see him pulled out top lane a little bit more, but probably not going to see him in pro play just because of kind of the gaps in his kit that makes it a little too reliant to land these skill shots.
Hey man, this Pike Mordekaiser low-key buff for G2, man. That counter pick is looking way better now, huh?
Hey, listen, if people want to bring him out, I'm more than happy to be wrong in that aspect.
I don't know. He was picked a lot in EU, so I mean, I would be surprised if we didn't see him again.
He wasn't as successful, so we'll see. like I said, I'm a big time Mordekaiser player. I love his new kit personally. So we'll see what they can bring out for us.
Definitely feels like a Huni champion. I'm kind of
Definitely,
sad that we never got to see Mordekaiser's patch in NA, so we don't know at all who plays him.
yeah. And when you say it feels like a Huni champion, there's always Lucian, right? So
I don't know, man. If Clutch picks that, I don't think they have a very good read on the meta.
So yeah, Mordekaiser, good little spectate buff there. A small, 5% increase on his shield from damage he deals. The next one is going to be huge. Orianna, I expect to see her perma-pick, perma-ban with this damage increase. You went from a whole 50 damage flat increase at level 1 on her ultimate, and then an increase, 10% increase on the AP ratio. So really huge buff for just overall damage on the Orianna ult.
Yeah, Orianna's always been a safe blind pick, and now since a lot of the other like blind picky flex champions got nerfed, I could see her coming out as a good blind pick first rotation for teams that want to save their counter pick for top lane.
And it just opens up that maneuverability in the draft, just be able to to do exactly what you said. So should be, Orianna is always one of those champions where it doesn't matter what rank season it is. If you can play Orianna well, you at least have a lane that you can kind of get by and then just go into the team fights, just supporting your team with just a really good shockwave.
Yeah, especially because like 50 base damage doesn't sound like a lot early, but keep in mind like level 6 people have like 800 HP. So that's a lot of their health to be buffing that.
Yeah, so really excited to see that. We're going to probably see her a lot in Worlds. But moving on to this next one, we have Ornn with the upgrades happening earlier. So instead of level 13, we get a whole level 12. So, probably would like to see them move that maybe to level 11, but I guess that's a little early for people to be kind of finishing items without them being just completed.
Well, see, and that's just the problem. See, Ornn's upgrades for himself automatically happen at level 12. And so now the problem becomes, are you even going to have both your items for that? Because Ornn gets 2 free upgrades. Are you even going to have those 2 completed items by the time you get that upgrade?
Yes.
Okay.
Go
You
ahead.
heard it here first, folks. Yes.
No. I was actually gonna say I was gonna agree with him. So I actually went into the practice tool and sat between enemy bushes and CS'd until I was 12 without backing, and you essentially will have at most like 5,500 gold. Obviously, assuming that you're 000 and you haven't gotten any like global gold from an enemy or from an ally killing another lane's turrets or anything like that. But yeah, you end up with 5,500 gold by level 12. And pretty much unless you are going Iceborne and Sunfire, you don't have enough gold to get the 2 item upgrades. And that's assuming that you don't buy boots.
I was just about to ask that. So boots not included.
Yeah, boots are not included.
Kind of like the good old batteries not included, boosts not included. Now that doesn't even open you up to teams that have a mixed damage composition. So that's only for pure physical damage dealers to just rush into those items. No potions, no wards. That's it.
Yes, and if you are mixed damage and you want to go Abyssal and Iceborne, I think that's like another 250 gold. If you want to go Abyssal and Sunfire, I think that's like another 600 gold or something on top of that. So I mean, you get really, really like you start going further and further away from even being able to get the 2 items if you start going like both armor and magic resist items. For support Ornn though, so obviously I only did this where you were getting all of the gold and you weren't sharing experience and you weren't using relic procs or getting ancient coin or anything like that. So it might be good for support Ornn, especially because his items I think they're like 4,300 gold. Again, not including, a support item, not including wards or HP pots, or like anything but the two items, Solari and Redemption, are 4,300. So, assuming that you get somewhat similar amounts of gold as a support, which I don't think you do.
You do not. I
Um,
usually end games around 8,800 at most, unless we're really far ahead to where I kind of hit the upper 10 to 12K.
yeah,
But
exactly. So
most of them, oh yeah.
Yes, I don't even think this is a thing. Like, I don't think this. I think this is just like a fake buff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
Well,
it's there to
okay.
make it seem like it's going to be better. I will say though that it does let you get an ally item at level 13 instead of level 14. So that's really that right there
Good
is
for the
buff.
carry, the
Yeah,
hyper
see,
carry
that's
role.
where the power. That's where the power comes in, because like for Ornitz himself, this feels like it's literally nerfing him. But when you're talking about the team play that Orn provides, that's when it starts getting better, and you can get those 1,000 gold upgrades out to your team faster.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing it. So moving on to the next one, we got Pantheon. We got a base magic damage decrease or magic resist decrease, and then the empowered W net damage now scales. So it deals a little bit less early on, and then we're actually looking at a total 15% damage increase once you're hit level 18. So I mean, I'm not really expecting a lot from this. This is just kind of a small time. You can trade a little bit more with him against with magic damage, maybe forcing him to change his build path a little bit. But I mean, I'm not really seeing much change to the Pantheon pattern.
Yeah, they want to make him less oppressive in mid lane. I mean, it's definitely a nerf. Like, it doesn't matter that your W scales up to be better than it was. You're playing him for early game, and if you don't end it by level 13, then what are you doing?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
sort of 100% agree with this. It's making it so mid lane Pantheon is less oppressive, and if he's gone top, the AP like counters that are already there for him just counter him even harder.
Gotcha. So cool. Pretty straightforward changes there. You know, the only thing I'm kind of excited to see is the actual damage increase on the empowered W. But from when I've seen, most of the targets are usually dead before even the full damage kind of goes off. Just if you bring a lot of burst with the gang, with other champions. So kind of looking at the next champion here, we have Rek'Sai. Now we talked about this a little bit, and you guys kind of bumped me down a peg because I was a little excited for this. Hey, 3 armor increase, and then the unburrowed Q, the quick 3 attacks in session, now works on turrets. So I kind of brought a point, a little bit healthier of a jungle clear maybe, but maybe on a successful gank you're looking at more turret plates down the road. Now you guys brought up a point where her counters still counter her really hard, so it's kind of irrelevant. Can you kind of talk me through that?
It's not even so much that she has counters, so much as she's a champion you pick to counter other champions. So, like, the only time I see her really ever getting picked is into Jarvan because she's good into that matchup, but even then she gets outscaled once you hit, like, 2 or 3 items. So she's not, like, a great counter into it. And then there are just better alternatives to her if you want an early game AD champion. I believe Olaf is better. Xin Zhao also gets buffed this patch. He's probably better. Jarvan is better. You have a lot of alternatives if you want early game power. Gragas is better. He's not attack damage, but he's still an early game jungler that can snowball really hard.
Yeah,
And-
I think she's a counter to Xin Zhao. So I mean, they buffed him. They're buffing her. I think they buffed his healing. So essentially, they're just gonna both be a little bit healthier when they leave the jungle, and most likely, I'm expecting everything to end up the exact same as it was ending up before, just a slightly longer because they're a little bit healthier.
It's like Rek'Sai doesn't even need a healthier clear, though. You can pretty much clear at full HP if you're cycling your W in between auto attacks. Once you reach max Fury, you can go down 50 Fury by burrowing and unburrowing.
Gotcha. And most of the play pattern I see with junglers is that they look for the one-to-one trade where I take out your squishy carry and you take me while the rest of my team kind of does whatever they're built around to do. unless you have someone who could, like Zillion, who can kind of let her go in and die without actually dying. But not too many changes with the Rek'Sai. So moving on to probably one of the most hated champions in the game, or at least the player base in the game, we have Riven. The Q cooldown increased now from 13 or 12 seconds to 13, so you gain an additional second cooldown, but you gain it back with your shield. Now is a 12-second cooldown at level 1 all the way to 8. Now, kind of one of my big notes here is that the shield being on a lower cooldown makes your trade patterns much healthier for you, which, I mean, they were already pretty healthy, at least from what I have seen. But the Q cooldown gives you a little more trade window when playing against. What do you guys kind of think about that?
I'm not going to touch this one. I don't know enough about Riven's trade patterns to know how the cooldown change affects her.
Yeah, I have minimal knowledge on Riven. I will say that I'm pretty sure that she rushes 45 or 40% cooldown. So, I mean, you're looking at max E being like 4.5-ish seconds. And I'm not sure how big the shield is.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, when I do get autofilled top lane and they play Riven, I will say that my tanks do absolutely nothing, and they're going to continue to do absolutely nothing. Yeah, I don't really have too much knowledge on this. The Broken Wings cooldown nerf might make it so she's a little bit easier to catch. For ganks in lane, and maybe you can escape her a little bit easier outside of lane, but I don't think that's going to be that big of a change. I think the E buff is significantly more beneficial than the Q nerf. So I do think that we're probably going to be seeing more Riven play.
Which we actually, we definitely should, even if it's in the mid lane against maybe some of these AP or even AD counters, or even into Echo. You can really trade really well into Echo as long as you're using your abilities wisely to dodge out of the stunts.
Yeah, and pro play, I don't know. I don't know what we're looking at for pro play with Riven. I mean, I think, was it Faker that pulled her out mid lane?
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe we'll see him do it, but I honestly feel like he's gonna get put on Orianna duty.
I don't see Riven as being all that outstanding of a champion. I think there are better alternatives to her in pro.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, moving on to the next one. This is one that I actually have been, kind of once again bringing to point, looking forward to. Big Sejuani nerf for the mid game. Now, this nerf to her passive, when she stacks up her frozen passive, I don't remember what it is, and she gets people into the ice block, she's now only going to do a flat 10% of the target's maximum damage instead of scaling all the way up to 20. So you're losing at least a little bit of your Baron burst potential late game. Now, that being said, the rest of her kit has remained the same, untouched. So she's still going to be that, gank powerhouse. And, Aurelia Sejuani combo should still be pretty strong.
Yeah, you're not really picking Sejuani for her damage anyway. Like, yeah, you're going to feel this. Like, you can no longer be late game Sejuani and jump out of fog onto an ADC and actually just straight up one-shot them. But, I mean, who cares? As long as you're getting the CC off on the target that you want to get the CC off, you're still doing your job as Sejuani. It doesn't matter that you're not bursting as hard, I don't think.
Yeah. And really, that's only into late game objectives if you're trying to force in that area. But Sejuani is still going to be really strong in the jungle. They haven't touched her passive, so she still retains those tank stats, along with Aftershock if you take that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You're not picking her for her damage mid and late, so she's still going to be picked probably just as much.
Yeah, and her ganks early are literally completely the same. So
yeah.
And that's what you're picking her for. You're picking her for ganks early and then CC mid game.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with Sion. I'm honestly not too familiar with Sion. Now, an increase to the base stats of his shield don't seem as impactful because they're not touching the cooldown or the mana cost at all. So just from what I've seen, you're using it only as a trade tool to absorb a lot of that like ignite damage if the top laner takes ignite, or some of the burst if you're playing against somebody like Riven, where you're just absorbing a lot of that pressure. Now this gives you a little bit more to absorb with, but in the end, you're still playing Sion into a different, a matchup he might be losing.
This means a lot more for people that go like Comet Scion and people that 1-point wonder the W than it does for anyone else. Because 30 more damage reduction on rank 1 is pretty big, but if you're maxing the shield, it's a lot less impactful.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think this is probably not going to change too much in most of Scion's matchups. I think really this is going to do is some of the matchups that were like very skill based. This might push him into the slightly favorable pick, just with like trades. But I think that's pretty much all that we're gonna see. I still don't think we're gonna see any Scion in pro play.
Yeah, there are a lot of tanks that are just better than him.
Yep, not too much to talk on that point. Now, bringing me to the next point here is the Silas. We're looking at. Whew, thank you, Lord Jesus.
Can we stop nerfing him, please?
No, keep nerfing him. I'm sick and tired of seeing him stealing my ultimates and just making me look bad.
He has a 44% win rate in solo queue before this nerf. He does not need more nerfs.
I don't care. It is a pride thing. I am sick and tired of him stealing my Nami ultimates and making me look bad. All right? Stop it. All I am is a support. I don't have the scaling of the damage that you do, Silas. Stop making me feel bad about myself.
Okay, so as somebody who plays a lot of Silas jungle, I'm gonna say I haven't gotten to play it yet since the patch came out, but this makes me want to not touch it whatsoever. You're losing 4 armor and 0.5 armor growth, which is already making your unhealthy clear more unhealthy because you don't have the shield anymore to block those autos from the camps that you used to have. And then they're also nerfing your wave clear, which is also going to be nerfing your jungle clear by proximity, because the damage to the non-primary target is like gutted. So Silas jungle just feels like it's going to be awful this patch.
So a little bit of payback from the bot lane here, because when Silas jungle comes down to gank my bot lane, we usually get wiped because he just steals my ultimates and wrecks house. Now, just picture for me, if you will, a full AP jungle Silas stealing a Leon ultimate, which has massive scaling on AP. Silas just ults the enemy carry and just boom, one shot. Legitimate one shot.
Yeah, no, I know. I play both support and jungle Silas. I am aware of the interaction. The thing is, Silas, despite him having that one-shot potential, it is very hard to 1v9 a game on Silas. That's why his win rate is so low, and it's just such an apparent nerf to pro play that you're nerfing this like 44% win rate champion. You saw it with Akali, you saw it with Aatrox. Both of those are like well sub 50 champions getting hit. And it feels bad for solo queue that so many of these like high skill intensive champions are getting nerfed right before Worlds and are probably going to be buffed immediately afterwards because they're just going to be sitting at like 40% win rate for the next 2 weeks.
And it's one of the things where maybe the balance crew isn't entirely in tune with either the player base or the pro base. They're kind of stuck in the middle. What are we balancing for? Are we balancing for Worlds? Are we balancing for solo queue? But with Worlds here, the next patch after this should be the preseason patch. But, this should add up for a pretty, at least, exciting Worlds. Now, I'm not too sure about the solo queue experience. My solo queue is here with you guys, talking about patch notes. So, it's up, it's down, we're bronze tier, it's whatever. So Silas jungle, we're probably not going to see it in Worlds. I don't even think we'll really see it in the mid lane.
I think we'll probably still see it mid lane into certain matchups. Silas has a very favorable matchup into Orianna, who is just now getting buffed, so we'll probably still see him into specific things. I don't think he's going to be that 100% blind pickable champion that he once was, though.
Which I'm okay with, I'm never a fan of being able to just say, hey, I'm going to pick this and I'm going to succeed no matter what you bring. Unless I'm throwing an entire roster of bans at that, what counters that champion.
Yeah, I
So,
completely agree. I don't think that he's going to be so much of a free pick. You're just not like it's not going to be like blue side just auto lock Silas
you
every
just have to
game.
make it. You have to bring something with it to help it succeed.
Yeah, I think there has to be more of a plan, and like Silas fits into the plan instead of the plan builds around Silas.
We're not saying that you can't make this work in solo queue. We're just saying it's probably going to be a little less successful than some of your more standard jungle. So, you know, there it is. A little armor take, or I should say, a lot of armor taken away, and a lot of that AOE free AOE damage from the passive taken away. Now this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I would just stay away from this one for 2 weeks, guys. Let them buff it next patch. Just I wouldn't touch this one anymore.
Let the balanced team regret their choice. Everybody get your pitchforks. Let's start to riot. Wait.
Yeah,
Oh.
it just if you're looking for something to play, just play Annie.
Just play Annie. Hey.
True though.
It's so free. Like in almost every lane.
Just play Annie Heimerdinger bot lane, dude.
God, let's do it. All right. Now, one of the things I'm excited to see in this next pick, moving on to the TK, we are benching the Kench. We are loading the Toad back onto the truck so he can get kind of sent down to Louisiana and, frog legs. Even though he's not a frog, he's a catfish. Still Louisiana. Now, big nerf here to his early game where you're just losing that flat 75% of your gray health as healing. Now it scales from 30% all the way to 100 from level 1 to 18. Now, early game is going to be a little more painful. You have to be more aware of where you are, what you're positioning. You can't be as aggressive if the enemy brings Ignite because you're already lost 40% of your base healing or 45% of your base healing. You cut that in half already, you're only getting 15% of the effectiveness on the heal. So you are going to die to Ignite if you take an unfavorable trade. Now, late game, though, you're looking at a really successful conversion from that gray health into just overall healing. You don't need to stack as much health regen into like the Warmogs anymore. You can now really focus on, your lockets and get into, any sort of nice Vow and bring those to, have a more successful lane partner. So
I'll be real.
That's my tangent there.
I'll be real with you here. This isn't benching the Kench. This is putting the Kench on the bench and then sending the repo agent out to take that bench away from him because he hasn't paid his mortgage off. Oh my god, this champion was so bad. What? He's not. He doesn't need a nerf. He's already not getting played anywhere but LCK, and I don't even think he's being successful in LCK. Why are you like?
There were a few games in LCS. Now, like they kept putting Biofrost on, like just from a pro perspective, they kept putting Biofrost on the Tahm Kench duty. But
how well did that work out for him?
Exactly. That was going to be my point. So thank you, ZZ Dog, for stealing my point. I appreciate it. So, that's kind of where we stand. Tahm Kench hopefully is going to kind of stay off to the F tier, jungler, or not junglers, hopefully not jungler, but supports. Now you can start to really bring those pokey supports like Asona, or if you want to go really aggressive, you can bring Brand and just start to hammer it home, frying fish tonight. So Tahm Kench.
Okay, yeah.
So long.
It does not even out with how it is currently until level 12. Level 12 is when you hit 75% of gray health.
And you know what? I think Riot was tired of Team Liquid putting double lift on Sona Tahm Kench duty. So, maybe they're just looking out for double lift because double lift expressed how much he hated playing a Sona lane. So, who knows?
Yeah. God, this champion was so bad. Now it's just actually unplayable. The game's over by 12 minutes. Like, who cares if it levels out?
Yeah, I mean, it just gives you a few more opportunities to take unfavorable trades late game if you make it to late game. So that was kind of the big point there. Now, they did really kind of nerf him really hard there. So we'll see if teams kind of pick him up. The global utility there is still there with the ultimate, so you can turn those fights with an odd man. But it's just you're bringing a lot of baggage for that free airfare. So the fees start to stack up when you still have to pay the baggage fee. So moving on to the next one, I'm really excited because I'm a big time Fnatic fan since when Xpeke was playing, backdoor on the Kassadin. Now Twisted Fate is a big time permaban against this team because of how they use his ultimate. Now, AD Twisted Fate, got a significant buff here with the attack speed scaling. What was 10% with 1 point into it, now 20%, and then you gain 10 bonus damage or base damage off of that stacked deck. So, Twisted Fate mid lane, going to see a lot more of it.
Yeah, it feels really good, especially because you're probably 1 point wondering this.
And this might be something where we might see a jungle Twisted Fate sneak through if a team wants to try to risk that, or if they're practicing with it as a flex pick. So, I'm like I said, I'm excited to see if Fnatic is able to even get this champion. Should be a perma pick against them. Now, in solo queue, if you do play Twisted Fate, you're playing more towards being able to pick those. Utilize your pick a card in the middle of a team fight, so being able to land those gold cards. Don't blue card salute like Reggie did, every single time he played Twisted Fate. So, there's not much to it. He's a pretty straightforward champion. This is a pretty straightforward buff in my book. Now, the next two champions we have here, Shadow, if you could do me a favor, just get them both, Vayne and Veigar, or Veigar, both on screen here. Now, not a lot changes, at least from my perspective. You get 5 AD on the ultimate for Vayne increase. Now, it does scale a lot better, but you're still only getting 25 versus the 20. No other changes to the Vayne kit.
Literally doesn't mean anything. It's like 0.5% maybe if you're lucky.
So I think what they're doing there is they're just saying, hey, I'm sorry we took 5 AD from you in the beginning of this entire season, so here's 5 AD on your ultimate.
So as a support player, I mean, I have really, really weird champion picks for support, but they really work. And if I haven't picked support and the enemy locks in Vayne, I'm locking in Teemo, and she's doing nothing for the entire game. So, it doesn't matter. Just like Vayne is like this damage, like even minus the Teemo pick, like Vayne is still outclassed by almost every other AD carry minus
Vayne
like
is
Kalista.
literally Kaisa with an outdated kit.
Yeah.
Now, the only argument I could bring to picking a Vayne is the old school matchup of Vayne into Sivir. But you better hope and pray that as a Vayne, you are able to get that Sivir into a side lane and catch. That is your only saving grace there. But aside from that, I got to agree with you guys. It's not a lot with the rest of the pitfalls that are in her trap.
Okay, but why play Vayne into Sivir when you can play Kaisa into Sivir?
Well, Kaisa's usually banned, and Xayah was nerfed pretty heavily in the last patch. So
she wasn't nerfed that bad. Xayah's still fine. So
maybe I misread it.
Yeah, if you want to go late, you just pick Cog, I think. Cog Kaisa.
Oh, Kog'Maw. So
yeah.
Nah, man,
awesome.
Clearly you picked Jhin with that 280 buff from last patch, dude.
yeah, you're right. And Caitlyn, that 280.
Well, okay, that one actually matters. The Jhin one music's not
it does, but it's because of her range.
We'll see how.
80, but this is about this patch, not last
this
patch.
patch. Yeah, we are in the now. We are not in the then. If we were in the then TSM would still be a thing. But
Right.
Veigar here now. Cooldown reduction on the E decreased at later ranks. Now, I'm not sure kind of where they may have been going with this, but support Veigar isn't really a thing because of just the the cooldown on the initial E is 18 seconds. You have to really skill that up. So you're not getting a lot with Veigar. And when you take a mid, you don't even prioritize this as your second thing that you maxed out. You max out your
It's actually his highest win rate skill order is maxing E second mid.
Really?
Yes, Veigar, actually, this is really big for mid Veigar because
okay, I stand corrected.
The high skill cap Veigar is all max E second.
Yeah, I think just go 45%, like go glacial or whatever it is. that gets you that 45% and biscuits and or minion dematerializer, or like one of those two, and then you just scale because that's what Vigard does.
Yeah, see, like, the reason that you max E second over W, because I see a lot of people are surprised to hear me say that, W's scaling actually doesn't really matter all that much because its AP ratio is so ridiculously high, and it also gets natural CDR from its passive, so there's actually no need to put points into it, is the reason that you would max E second over it.
Gotcha. So, hey, we all learn a little something every day. So, if not, then we're just kind of decaying slowly into the hell that is bronze or iron. So, hey, mid Viger, might maybe seeing him come out in Worlds. I'm not really sure about his match. Can you guys bring me through that a little bit?
Well, okay, Niski likes to play it, so if anyone's gonna play it, I would expect C9 to. But I think Vagar is actually kind of sleeper OP right now.
Yep.
Because Vagar counters a lot of comps that are meta right now. Like, you can you can stuff a lot of engages with the Vagar E, and a lot of pro comps right now are really reliant on one engage source and have a lot of just really strong damage dealers. So if you stuff that engage with a Vagar E, then you can pretty much just trade back damage for free because a lot of pro teams don't have more than one source of engage.
And with that, you would really force the Morgana if you took that in as a counter. You would really force the Morgana shield onto that person who is engaging versus saving it for some lockdown on the carry. So really interested to see how this kind of plays out. Now, moving on to our next one, we talked about this a little bit earlier. This is kind of where we get the opportunity to really touch base. Xin Zhao gets his heal on his passive gets increased and scales even better late game. And then his 3-talent strike, his Q gets a more base damage after the first point. So it's no longer a 1-point wonder. You have to sink that second point for the damage.
Now, you want to talk about a needless buff? This is a nothing buff. You're still not up in Q. There's no reason to. You max E into W every time. Don't max Q. It's bad.
Exactly. There you go. So you heard it from the ZZ dog, don't fall victim to this buff. Maybe they're trying to catch us out, when we're not aware. So, Illuminati is here. We see through their plans. So Riot, you almost caught me there.
Like, literally, it is 3 to 12 damage. Like, you laughed at the 2 attack damage buffs. This is literally 1 more damage than that. And it's only on 3 of your autos. It's not even on all of them. This is so bad. Like, I don't understand. This is not what's going to make Xin OP. Like, the passive is kind of nice for the healthier clear, but he already had healthy clear. Who cares?
Are we still going to see Xin Zhao coming out as maybe a potential priority pick in the jungle?
I don't think he's going to be a priority pick by any means, but he can still have fringe success. Like, he's still like that C-tier jungler that people will go to if there's a lot of bans.
For when, like, Olaf or, them are not available.
Yeah, pretty much. And depending on team, some people favor Xin Zhao over Olaf because he doesn't fall off quite as hard. So, like, Cloud9 likes the Xin Zhao. I think a couple of the play-in teams also like Xin Zhao. So I expect to see him, like, a few times. But he's not going to be, like, this amazing priority pick by any means.
Gotcha. All right. Anything to add to that, Senpai?
Yeah, Xin Zhao buff was negligible.
Negligible. Got it. All right. Well, we took care of that one pretty quickly. Now, bringing us through to the next one, Yuumi. Thank the Lord. Riot finally at least saw, a brief glimmer of hope and brought it down to the rest of us here in solo queue. Now, this is only hitting her Q. It's not hitting her healing, which is still ridiculously busted. But this at least gives you a little bit of potential to get away from the Yuumi a little bit. Now, just overall changes to the Yuumi. Now, big nerfs coming down to the Q. The slowest 20% at all ranks, which is a massive nerf. You used to be able to skill that up and get up to upwards of an 80% slow, which decayed. Now, 20% at all ranks, just flat across the board. Thank you, Riot, for finally seeing the error at least a little bit there. This will open up a little bit of a skill path change. Instead of having to put a lot more points into the queue, for the increased slow, you're going to prioritize, your E a little bit more. So more healing. Now, slow duration reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1 second, and the slow no longer decays. So, we're probably still going to see her because of the massive amounts of healing at percent missing health and the scaling that heal gets, but we're not going to probably see her perma pick or perma ban.
What are you even supposed to max as Yumi now, dude? Like,
the E is the only way to go.
But like,
now,
the
your
E
Q gives you more damage. So this opens.
Still bad. Who cares about the Q damage? That's not why you were maxing it.
But that opens you up to, you're already taking Athene's first because you don't necessarily need any boots or anything. So it opens you up to, you can work on the more scaling damage, but there really isn't a lot there. She's just going to be a heal bot and an ultimate bot at that point. So it's just going to be a better Soraka.
It's not a better Soraka. No, this champion is so bad. Like, this champion was already like a 42% win rate or something stupid low in solo queue. Now it might return to sub 40. Like, can you imagine Riot releasing this champion, like having to giga buff it to make it playable, and then just gutting it again because it's viable in pro? I really can't wait for next patch when they buff all these sub 40 champions that they nerfed.
What I don't like seeing Riot doing is the second they release a champion, they see it's not quote unquote performing well, and then they buff it. But it really is just growing pains. People are trying to figure out the champion, like Kiana. They buffed Kiana immediately after her patch, but then they realized, hey, she's doing ridiculous amounts of damage. Let me nerf her again.
Yeah, that was a bit different though. Kiana was like really underperforming, and the nerf that she had wasn't like gutting her. She lost like 10 damage and then she was balanced. Kiana's release was much more stable than Yumi's.
But the quick draw that Riot has with, okay, they're not performing because they're a week out and playtesting isn't giving us this information. Well, your playtesting has a pick ban phase. So get rid of the ban phase. Let people actually play this champion so that we can get a released champion who has at least, who doesn't need to be supremely buffed in order to even be reliable, just to figure out, hey, she was pretty strong on the get-go. Like Thresh.
I think the problem with the playtest thing is that it's more higher elo players, so you're not really getting the feel of the entire player base from that. And PBE is a joke, so nobody really takes it seriously.
Yeah. So Yumi, probably not going to see her permaban. Now you probably see her fit into a few compositions that are looking for either that counter engage or the force engage, because Olaf Yumi is an absurd combo. Yumi Garen is really good for just the healing, getting him through that laning phase so that he can become that absolute monster in the mid game.
Yumi Garen's just gutted, dude. Like, you don't have the slow for the pick anymore. I don't think you can play Yumi Garen.
We'll see what they are able to do. So aside from that, from my perspective, there's not really much to talk about aside from the fact that they've nerfed her a lot. She's probably not permanently gone, but you don't need to permaban her.
To me, she's just worse karma now.
Yeah, worse karma. All right, well, moving on to the last one here, is Zach. Now, I missed the old Zach personally when they first released him, but I'm not against his current kit. Now, one thing that you do get with the Zach is the Let's Bounce new green potion. Blob lets restore an additional 1, 2, and 3% max health. So all that's going to give you is, as you're getting these passive blobules, when you pick them up, it's going to give you that flat healing plus the percent of your maximum health. So more in-fight sustain after you get that ultimate.
This is nothing. Oh my god. Like,
it opens. It unlocks him post 6, but he has to get to that before then.
Well, the thing is, like, if you wanted to do something like this as a buff to Zac, like increasing the bloblet healing at certain breakpoints, you should have just put this on his actual passive and like made it be like the 1, 7, 13, 18, or whatever their usual level scaling incentive is. Like, putting this on his R, his only hard clear is debatably his first clear, and even then it's not too hard. It might be a bit on the unhealthy side. But after that, you're totally fine. So having a more blob you'll heal isn't going to help your clear. And in team fights, that 1% additional healing, that doesn't mean anything.
But that's
Like,
1%
what?
of max HP, not current HP.
Okay,
So
still, like, it's like Zach
Yeah,
is gonna have
this
what,
is
like 4,000? Like, the only time this matters is if you have Stoneplate on.
yeah. I mean, even then, this is still nothing. I mean, I'm assuming that this is like as soon as you get R from then on. It's not like only when you're using R.
Nah, it's a
Yeah.
passive, so it'll
it
be
is a
any
passive
blob
that you unlock when you
make.
get your ultimate.
Yeah, so I mean, even if you've got like I don't know 1,200 HP at level 6, you're healing for 12 HP on each blob. At 3,000 HP, you're healing for 30
It's like say
per blob.
you did a full rotation, so you get 2 blobs from Q, you get 1 from W, you get 1 from E, and you get 3 from alt. So you're looking at what, like
7.
7 blobs. Like
Yeah,
if you get the second W off from the CDR you get from picking them up, that's like if you have 3,000 HP, that's 200 HP. Like
Yeah.
that's just is not that big. And even then, half the time as Zach, you can't even pick up the blobs. You
Yeah,
just
I
get
mean,
crowd controlled. So
I don't think this is gonna do anything.
yeah, the only time this is gonna matter in my eyes is if you have Stoneplate on and have like 8,000 HP. Then maybe you can get like 80 HP from a
I-
globule and it'll matter. But other than that,
Yeah.
it's like nothing.
Yeah, I mean, even then, it's still only like actually, if you collect all 7, it's 420 if you have Stoneplate and 4,000 HP.
Paw,
420 smoke break.
So or 8,000 HP, not 4,000. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I mean, 400 HP is a lot, but that's assuming that you're hitting every single one and not a single one is getting stepped on.
Yeah, you're never realistically gonna get that. And in team fight, you get like 2 or 3.
Yeah. So I mean,
So
you're
this
looking at
means nothing.
60 to 120 HP gained in a team fight.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough to warrant just ridiculous amounts of Zach picks.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying a ridiculous amount, but we're probably not going to see him in Worlds, but we're probably going to start see a resurgence of Zach Jungle in solo queue, just with not necessarily this buff, just with, kind of tanks starting to come back a little bit. Now, maybe not into your standard, not Kassadin, Kha'Zix jungle, but you can real easily fit Zach into a composition. You guys have said it. His first clear is not even that painful. You get a little bit of assistance with the buffs, so you can really fit him easily. It's kind of like Ivern. It's a very niche group, but the people that make him work by being successful at what he's good at. You're looking at the disruption in the fight. The additional healing is just going to make it that much easier to succeed at lower health values in those fights. So the niche pick, never discount it. While the buff doesn't seem like a lot, there is going to be a group out there that is going to want to abuse that.
Yeah, maybe you get like 0.5% win rate in solo queue.
Yeah,
Hey,
maybe,
listen.
I mean, maybe we could pull like a last stand.
It's not
with him
always
or
about the
something.
solo queue. Sometimes people bring them into
Last-
these tournaments. So, just things to
man.
watch out. But aside from that, that's kind of the end, minus a few bug fixes. Now, I haven't really
What
read
the items, dude? The item change is the biggest one.
Oh, I'm sorry. The best one aside from the Mordekaiser being able to see and spectate, we have items. Now from Riot, we removed the in quotes from some items names and descriptions. So instead of the Black Cleaver, we are now looking at Black Cleaver, Black Spear, Bloodthirster, Dark Seal, Hex Core, Mach 1 and Mach 2, Lightbringer, and Obsidian Cleaver. So as Spectre says, literally unplayable. I'm just going to uninstall. You guys have a good night. I'm going to go enjoy the pizza rolls that my mom has in the oven.
Clearly the Riven changes were compensation for how hard they hit Black Cleaver this patch.
Truth. Very true there.
Wait, was it really the Bloodthirster?
Yes.
Wow, I obviously don't play champions that use Bloodthirster.
I look at pictures because reading
I didn't
words
realize
is hard.
Hex Core had the in front of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at all these, and I'm like, man, I don't remember. Like, I play Misfortune support, and I get Black Cleaver almost every game, and I'm like,
you don't play
Black
the
Cleaver?
Misfortune support?
Yeah. No, I don't play the Misfortune Sword.
Wait,
But-
okay. Are there any Mimi bug fixes? I haven't actually read these.
All right. Alawi.
Yasuo cannot ult onto a non-knocked up target who has been hit by Ornn's ultimate. What?
Nice. So maybe the first part of Call of the Force
That's
Scout.
actually ridiculous if that was what was happening.
Yeah. A good one there. Alawi is properly able to cast W even when grounded. That's hey, watch out for that 2% spike in Alawi win rate.
Rakan's ult marker doesn't display in spectator mode. Change on the level of Mordekaiser's, clearly.
Awesome. Well, aside from the skins, hey, skin it to win it. Join us every time I cast. We do a fashion show breakdown to see which team wins the pregame showdown. So, maybe throw your wallet at the screen and hope to win one part of your matchup in your games. But aside from that, guys, any kind of last thoughts? What we're looking at? Maybe what we're excited to see coming into Worlds.
Were they trying to like reskin Morgana into Karma with that skin? Because that is Karma. That's not Morgana. Morgana is evil.
Did they just try and make a second Koi Nami?
Yeah. all right. But
she's
Worlds...
half lady, half fish. It's really hard to make a skin.
Wait. Which direction is Hextech Amumu facing? Is like the left thing his ear, or is that his eye?
Yes.
The left thing looks like his ear.
I mean, he's a sad.
Because
he's just sad. He cries from every orifice. His ears.
If you look at his like the top of his head, he has those two protrusions going toward the back. So that's the back of his head.
Okay.
And those you get the little tear ducts in.
Wait, is that like a Hextech Nunu in the background? Can we zoom in on that? Like the thing that's getting put up on the shelf on the right. Is that going to be the next Hextech skin, Hextech Nunu?
Oh my god, that looks like a Hextech Nunu.
Oh my god! See, they always put like a little bit of an Easter egg, for like, what the next Hextech skin will be in the splash art of the previous one.
Shadow, if you click on the skin, it should come up. A nice big picture, the high res picture. Oh yeah, well, there it goes.
That's a
way off screen. There it goes. So yeah, that definitely looks like a Nunu.
That's a yikes. Dude, I don't want to see Hextech Nunu. Oof.
But awesome. All right, well that kind of wraps it up, at least for the patch 9.19, the World's patch. So join us next time when we go over either if it's 9.20 or 10. Now, hopefully that one has Earth. That's what I'm looking forward to. But awesome. Well, ZZ Dog, Senpai, Shadow, thanks for joining me tonight. This is Bucci Boy 989 signing off because Mom says I have chores to do.
Better get to those, man.
All right.